Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go through. Let's dive into some rest of season wide receiver rankings. Fair warning, Jalen Waddle may or may not be too high, okay? Just going to get that out there. But before we get into anything, go down there, drop a like on this video. If you have any questions, drop them down there in the comment section. And in that comment section, you can find a link to Underdog Fantasy, where there are all these player props available in pretty much every state. We're about to get in 1 million underdog drafts on the live stream. So if you want to check out any of these player props, if you want to get into a draft with us on the live stream, go to the link in the description, the link in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK will get you your first deposit match, dollar for dollar, up to 100. But I think that should be about it. Let's go through. Let's dive into this. Starting off, Stephon Diggs at 1, Devontae Adams at 2, Tyreek Hill at 3, Justin Jefferson at 4, Jamar Chase at 5. I am not going to lie to you. I did not spend 1 second thinking about this top tier of rankings. You know why? Because it doesn't matter. They are all very comparable. This top tier is a wide receiver with the floor of a wide receiver 1 that has the ceiling to be the number 1 wide receiver overall in fantasy. You can take this any direction you want to. These are just some random names I threw up there in the top tier. What is most important with this top tier players is just figuring out who's in, who's out. It doesn't matter the order of the club as long as you can get into that club. Going down to the tier 2, DeAndre Hopkins was not able to make the cut. Hopkins coming off bye this week, going to a tough matchup with the New England Patriots. What I am just a little concerned about, and I mean just a little concerned about, is the fact this is going to be the first time we've seen Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore, and DeAndre Hopkins all play together. Clearly, you can see by these rankings, I still have DeAndre Hopkins as the top dog. I still have DeAndre Hopkins as that alpha wide receiver 1. I just have a hard time seeing him being the number 1 wide receiver overall with this additional wide receiver depth that we have in Arizona. But now going to tier 3, we're going to be led off with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we really didn't get to see how Jameson Williams was involved his first weekend because he only played 8 snaps. Like, we don't really know what the role of Jameson Williams truly is going to be. I'm not necessarily worried just because with Jameson Williams, well, yeah, he's going to expand this role. While, yeah, with Jameson Williams, he is going to be a good NFL wide receiver. He is going to be a good NFL receiver. I don't think he's going to be some great fantasy option. I think Jameson Williams will go through stretch NFL defenses, help the Detroit Lions offense, which, to be honest with you, doesn't really need much help. Right now, if we're looking at implied team totals for this week, obviously it's this week alone, but you have a Las Vegas sportsbooks telling us that the Detroit Lions are supposed to be the second highest scoring offense in the NFL this week. I see no reason to believe why that's going to change anytime soon because the Lions are white hot. Looks like this is a team that actually may be sneaking into the NFL playoffs. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to get a decent amount of targets. Now going over to our next guy, A.J. Brown, super volatile in Philadelphia. With A.J. Brown, you may end up getting Dallas Goedert back in week 15, which in my opinion would be good for the offense. Not great for A.J. Brown, not great for Devonta Smith, something we'll talk about later on. But Brown, we've still clearly seen the upside for him to be the wide receiver 1 any given week. It just comes down to, will the Eagles have to throw the ball in this game, or are they going to run it over and over again? Same thing we're seeing with CeeDee Lamb at 9. With CeeDee Lamb, I know that you may want to go ahead and you may want to move him higher than this. The issue is the Dallas Cowboys, if it's not for the 49ers, have the best defense in the NFL. The issue is they do not have to throw the ball. Like, if we're going to go through and look at passing attempts so far for this Dallas Cowboys offense, compared to a lot of other offenses here like the Detroit Lions, Dallas just doesn't throw. They don't have to. So even if Lamb's getting everything, kind of is what it is. I'm not too worried about Odell Beckham Jr. Odell goes to Dallas. Who cares? I think Odell's an NFL playoff edition, not a fantasy football playoff edition. But going over to 10, let's look at Jalen Waddle. I understand we have a lot of people telling us we are too high on Jalen Waddle, that Jalen Waddle is too boom bust. Well, all I see is booms. All I see is either booms or an injury, okay? Because if we go through and look at this 49ers game, throw it out the window. Jalen Waddle got injured, ladies and gentlemen. Don't know if you heard. If you go to the Cincinnati Jets games, what happened there? You had no Tua Tagovailoa. So those games can get thrown out the window as well. Jalen Waddle was also dealing with the hip injury. So if we remove the games where Jalen Waddle was either without his starting quarterback or Jalen Waddle got injured and left, what are we looking at? Just Jalen Waddle crushing 69 receiving yards, receiving touchdown, 171 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, 102 receiving yards, 129 receiving yards, 88 yards, 106 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, 85 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown, 66 yards, 85 yards. So this boom bust conversation is nonsense, okay? If you look into what's actually happened, when Tua is healthy, when Jalen Waddle is healthy, Jalen Waddle is arguably a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy football. I'm going to have him down here at 10 because Jalen Waddle is dealing with an injury. And on top of this, you don't love the fantasy football playoff schedule. That's also why Tyreek Hill is not going to be at 1 if we want to go back to tier 1, just because the Dolphins do have a tough fantasy football playoff schedule. Now, dropping down to our next tier, Amari Cooper is someone that has fallen a tier for us. And the reason for this is I think maybe we are a little bit too optimistic. We're just saying that Deshaun Watson was 100% going to come in and Deshaun Watson was 100% going to crush. Clearly, Watson did not look good his first weekend. I still have faith that Deshaun Watson is going to be able to get better. I still have faith that Deshaun Watson will be a good quarterback for the Cleveland Browns down the stretch. Amari Cooper gets to play multiple games at home. We know Amari is significantly better at home than he is away. Still willing to buy into Amari Cooper. I think we do have to drop him down a tier. And then we're going to go wide receiver 12, T. Higgins. Don't really care too much that Jamar Chase is back. Of course, T. Higgins can no longer be ranked as a borderline top 5 option. But still, T. Higgins, in my opinion, is going to be that low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2, and arguably one of the best offenses in the NFL at this point. And then at 13, we are going to get real aggressive here. We are going to get real aggressive, and we're going to go Garrett Wilson. Let me pull up my Twitter because we tweeted out something that's pretty interesting in terms of Garrett Wilson with and without Zach Wilson. So without Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson's had 5 games and Garrett Wilson has averaged over 20 fantasy points per game. Whereas in games that Zach Wilson played, which was 7, so we're looking at a pretty decent sample size here, that drops down to 8.3 fantasy points per game. Garrett Wilson is a phenomenal wide receiver without Zach Wilson. I will say you can't rank him as if he is a top 12 guy this week, however, because it is a very tough matchup going up against the Buffalo Bills, where I do think the Jets are going to. But now let's go over to our other spot where we are going to be looking at Chris Godwin, top of this tier. With Godwin as well, this week, move him down. This week, very tough matchup against the 49ers. But rest of season, I don't have too many hesitations at all with Chris Godwin. I think he's a very good receiver. He's almost the guy that had the receiving touchdown that won the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the game this past week. Obviously, there was a holding, but still, he gets target volume. He's the wide receiver 1 in Tampa. Just this week, please lower him down. The Bucs are going to really struggle against the 49ers. And then 15, we are going to be going Christian Kirk. Kirk, he's dominated targets. I think the main question that you have regarding Christian Kirk is this Jacksonville Jaguars offense good enough? If this Jacksonville Jaguars offense is good enough, I have no worries about Travis Etienne, no worries about Christian Kirk. But if they start getting boat raced every game like we just saw against the Detroit Lions, who were supposed to have a very bad defense, at that point we are going to get concerned. And then our next 2 guys, we are going to be going with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in whatever order you want. I think we honestly maybe should move these guys to the top of the tier. I want to. All these guys in this tier are the same. So maybe if you want to move Lockett and Metcalf up to 14, 15, we can. And you know what? Just give them the respect they deserve because they've been so damn consistent. Let's move Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf up to 14, 15. In reality, they're all about the same in this tier, okay? That's why we do this as the tier list. But dropping down to our next one, we're going to have Chris Olave at 18. He's playing in my opinion, a very bad New Orleans Saints offense. Like, I really hope that we get Jameis Winston in here sometime soon. Maybe it's because I have a few best ball teams that could use a Jameis Winston spike week or 2. Maybe that's the reason. Or maybe it's because Andy Dalton just caps this team so damn much. Like, I understand Jameis Winston is not good, blah, blah, blah. Jameis Winston is going to turn the ball over. Hey, Saints, can you at least make it fun for us? Can you at least make it fun for Saints fans? The Saints right now are 4-9. I don't think they're having fun watching Andy Dalton just not be good enough to get the job done. At least if you put Jameis Winston in there Well, yeah, he's a wild card, and while, yeah, who the hell knows what's going to happen? Who the hell knows what's going to happen? Maybe you're not going to be just guaranteed to lose as you are with Andy Dalton. Not a good spot for Olave. And then at 19, we are going to be going Keenan Allen. With Keenan Allen, if you're looking at an offense of no Mike Williams, you move him higher than this. If you have no Mike Williams in the offense, he is going to go higher. But I'm assuming Mike Williams comes back very, very soon, if not for this week. So we are going to have to move him down just a bit. But now going over to our next spot, Hollywood Brown at 20. Hollywood Brown just somewhat concerned about what we are going to be seeing in terms of Rondale Moore and DeAndre Hopkins being healthy alongside him. I mean, Hollywood Brown was supposed to be on a snap count before the bye week, and he went out there and he played more than DeAndre Hopkins. So I think he is fully healthy. It's just, is this offense good enough to elevate three guys, especially if DeAndre Hopkins has taken a decent chunk of it? But now our last guy in this tier will be Mike Evans. With Mike Evans, yes, he's very good. With Mike Evans, I still want to believe he's very talented. In my opinion, he's not someone that you could start this week, specifically because you're in a spot that with Mike Evans, he's going up against the 49ers. Avoid the 49ers when you can. Steer clear of this 49ers defense, but rest of season, he should be fine. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we're going to be going with Terry McLaurin at 22. With McLaurin, I have given him crap for God knows how long now, but he continues to go out there and be just okay. I mean, kind of know who Terry McLaurin is. If John Dodson expands his role at all, I think Terry McLaurin only has room to go down. Terry McLaurin's never demonstrated a ceiling to finish higher than a low end wide receiver 2 from a fantasy football points per game perspective. Points per game. Don't just look at season totals. 23, we're going to go Deebo Samuel. Going to Brock Purdy is not going to be the end of the world. Like, I don't necessarily think the 49ers quarterback matters as much as it would with another team. But still, you don't love being on a third string quarterback when you have CMC, George Kittle, and Ayuk all in the same offense. Then 24, we are going to have Christian Watson. With Christian Watson, I am there with you. I am really hoping he is better than this rest of season. Selfishly speaking, I would love for Christian Watson to be better than this. I am just hesitant that when we get Romeo Doubs back in, that it's going to be difficult for Christian Watson to see too many more targets than what he's already had. And I'm no mathematician, but what I do know for a fact is there is no way in hell this efficiency for Christian Watson can keep up. There's no way that he's going to continue to be able to score touchdowns at this clip. I'm rooting for the guy. I truly am. God, dear God, it's just ridiculous at this point. And then 25, we're going to go Mike Williams. With Mike Williams, I'm assuming that he is going to be good to go. Of course, this is an assumption. There's always the chance that he's not. There's always a chance that Mike Williams misses the next 2 weeks. I'm operating under the assumption, since he was at practice on Wednesday, that he should be playing week 14. He should be hopefully close to 100% week 15. There's just a lot of injury uncertainty with the Los Angeles Chargers based on how they dealt with this Keenan Allen injury earlier in the season. But dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go Devonta Smith at 26. So these are primarily going to be rankings for the fantasy football playoffs. And during that stretch, I think that there's a good shot you end up getting Dallas Goedert back in. And if you have Dallas Goedert back in, I think that is going to take some of those targets away from Devonta Smith. This is also a team that obviously is going to look to go out there and run the ball every chance they get. I think you just kind of hope that Dallas Goedert misses if you're a Devonta Smith owner. And then at 27, we are going to go Ayuk. I know with Brandon Ayuk, people are going to want him higher. But you're on the third string quarterback, which isn't the worst thing in the world for the 49ers, but it's not good. And you have Deebo, Kittle, CMC, and Ayuk. As we've been saying since the Christian McCaffrey trade, too many cooks in the kitchen, especially if the chef is a third string quarterback. Now, 28, we are going to be going with Michael Pittman on bye this week. Once he comes back, he's going to be consistently a low-end wide receiver too. Just very difficult to say that Michael Pittman Jr. has some insane ceiling for when he returns. And then 29, we're going to have DJ Moore. Very similar wide receivers. Great talents, horrendous offenses, no target competition. I think that you have pretty much Michael Pittman and DJ Moore as the same guy, as well as Jerry Jeudy. Now Jerry Jeudy, that you have no Cortland Sutton, no KJ Hamler, no Tim Patrick. Just like Michael Pittman, just like DJ Moore, he's a good receiver in a horrendous offense with no target competition. So very funny. I think all three of these guys are about the same. But there are a few more names I know people are going to be asking us about. The names right outside this list are going to be guys like George Pickens, Gabriel Davis, Jacoby Myers, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Take it any way you want, ladies and gentlemen. Take it any way you want. I think if you are having to rely on these guys in the fantasy football playoffs, unless you're playing in a league with multiple flex spots, a 14-team league, a 16-team league, you're probably not that well off. But anyway, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. And in that comment section, you can find a link to Underdog Fantasy. You can also find that link in the description. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Available in damn near every state, and you can get into some fun fantasy football drafts with us starting next week. But I think that's all I got for you. Thank you again. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you out with the live stream tonight.